NSFRadio because, Doug was you weren't my neighbor at that time, but he had a podcast. I actually knew two fat dudes through a work friend, and it was just, I like listened to the podcast, and I think it would be nice to create like a little community of people who could kind of help each other out. And
no, we didn't.
Yeah, we absolutely did. It failed horribly. But the thing is, it's so much fun. I don't know, it's just really, right now it's just kind of finding out the best way to kind of grow it and grow everybody's viewership and listenership.
I disagree that it failed at becoming a little community, because we are kind of a little community now because of it. Like we all, like friendships actually grew out of just, getting an email randomly one day from someone my friend Brad knew at work, and then it happened. It was this immediate too, like as soon as we all got together around the table the first time, it just worked.
Yeah, the failure was that the community tried to get too big,
Yeah.
That was, like this core group right here, it's solid. I mean, until that first time, however many months ago it was now, where the six of us first got together here, and we had guys calling in from Australia and, all this other stuff. But, that first time that we were all together, there was just like this, meeting on the same wavelength that, it's weird to me. I don't think it could really be explained. It just happens like that when like-minded people find themselves in the same room.
Yeah, our show FAWLCast, we grew up together, and we tried. I mean, God, how much we were talking about in the show we just did. We did, we made movies, we did internet stuff, and it was just kind of like, well, we were getting together every week anyways, and hanging out at Doug's house. And we were like...
we were doing movie night.
You were watching bad movies. Yeah. And we were like, we're making each other laugh.
Spider-Man.
Yes. We were making each other laugh so much, and it was like, we should record this. And, I was like, oh, yeah, it's a good idea. And we did a little test, and, it's like, okay, I think we can actually do this. And so we just, we're like, all right, let's just start recording these weird, crazy, X-rated conversations we're having.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, because I tried to do a segment where I went back in our archives and took conversations that weren't X-rated and then bleeped things to make them look X-rated. Yeah. It's like an unnecessary censorship kind of thing. And I can only do it for the first 2 episodes. So at the very beginning, we weren't foul.
Pure.
No, I think in the first episode I talked about going to that person's house and the kid was having a seizure. Right? Was it the first episode?
Yeah, it was in the first episode or two.
And she was like, well, if my son has a seizure, I've got to stick a thing up his butt.
Maybe we should point out that the thing she had to put up his butt was medicine. So if you have a seizure, I have to put a thing up his butt.
With us, initially we tried to make it something that anybody could listen to, and then I guess it was maybe 2 months in or something like that, we had a conversation about it, and we were like, this is just never going to be as funny as it could be if we're trying to constantly self-censor.
Yeah.
So then we were like, hell with it, slap on the explicit label and let's just let it fly.
Yeah, it initially went the idea to I didn't even know what a podcast was until I came across Chris Hardwick and his Nerdist, conglomerate. And then I started listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, I could do that. That looks like fun. And he's the only guy that I could possibly do it with. We've known each other since 6th grade. We've just got this rapport built up that we just fly back and forth. So
we share a brain.
That's pretty much the way it is. Yeah. And initially, I was trying to keep it kind of in the frame of. There's a guy named Mike Quackenbush. He's got a podcast called Grizzly Bear Egg Cafe, and they keep it pretty, above. There's no blue language, let's say. And so initially, that was kind of what we were trying to do, because, like he said, trying to keep it so that just anyone could pick it up. And then after a while, we realized that it wasn't coming across because we weren't just being who we are. No. And that's the beauty of podcasting, is you just go in, you're yourself. It doesn't matter. You just say whatever you want and come off the top of your head. No one's censoring you. And the show got better, I think, because we
It did. And the funny thing was that initially we actually had people that we know tell us that they like to listen to it with their kids and stuff. And at first, like I said, when we were trying to be PC, we were like, oh, that's cool, future listeners and whatever. Funny thing, after we went explicit, we still had people saying, we love listening to this with our kids, they love dude, you guys are awesome. I mean, that just kind of bugged me out.
We had never heard that.
Yes, we know. One of our listeners is a teacher.
Yeah, right.
She was, I guess she was in her bag in a classroom when she accidentally hit her iPad or something, and one of our episodes started up. And I was just making like the Bill O'Reilly joke. I'm like, fuck it, we'll do it live. So after I heard that a whole episode, I was like, nope, I'm not going blue. Just no unnecessary.
It was funny because he was clean, but we weren't.
Yeah. Well, we kicked around the idea about starting a podcast. It's a shame that we don't remember the conversation that really triggered it. But we were coming back from a birthday dinner for him one time, one night. And him and his fiance were in the front seat. Well, me and Doug were just dying laughing in the back over something.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got out of the car, you know, the three of us just sectioned off, and whatever it was, we continued.
For like an hour.
Yeah.
Outside my house.
Like January, snow's falling. But it was that moment where it's like, we need to...
You know, we just wanted, you know, it's kind of, like I said, we've been friends for so long. For me personally, it's cool to have a record of my friendship with these two guys. You know, like, for every episode that airs, there's probably an hour before and an hour after where we talk of, we could have just kept recording, but even in that, there's years and years beforehand of stories we can reference. Just, you know, Doug and me go to Philadelphia and get locked out of his car and we didn't have our coats on.
That was my bad.
That was Doug's. But I mean,
Good story, though.
Yeah, it's a great story. And of course, being us and the friendship we had, it only got better. I mean, if I was there with Josh, it would have been worse.
I would have through the window.
But, you know, so, and there are...
Josh isn't the look on the bright side type.
Like, there are 1,000 stories that we can reference every week, and even if it's something we already referenced, it seems like when we do come back to it, it's a new spin on it. And it's, you know, it's something you can only really do with friends you've known for, you know, 20 plus years, or however long we've known each other.
Yeah.
I'll say, like, when we started this, I never really imagined we'd have listeners outside of, like, 5 or 10 of our friends. So it's weird when Ken comes to us and he's like, holy shit, we have all these subscribers and we have all these downloads. I mean,
none of them are
we're not like, we don't have a gimmick. We're just 3 friends, you know, amusing each other. And it's weird when I get emails from people, like, you know, you'll get emails from friends who've moved across the country, different regions and stuff, and they're like, oh man, I really like that podcast. That was really funny when you guys were talking about this and that, and it reminds me of being home. I'm getting kind of homesick and everything. Or, you know, you've got another person who's like, why isn't the new episode out yet? And another person who's just like, yeah, this week was really rough on me. You know, I've been going through crazy stuff with work, and listening to your podcast like kind of perked me up. That blows my mind because we're nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't like, okay, you look at like Kevin Smith and Smodcast, you know, he has this established audience who will tune in and listen to him talk about nothing. We're literally 3 local guys. We're just 3 nobodies. Not to downplay it, but...
No, downplay it.
Nobody has any clue who we are, so it blows my mind when you get those like random likes on Facebook.
Yeah. Most of which are from the Middle East.
Yeah. Those like bots.
Yeah, that can't be right. But we get actual people that like our show, and I'm like, good.
That's kind of the beauty of podcasting, and I've heard it like called this before. It's kind of like the Wild West. Still, like, we really are in at the ground level because it's a very new medium and most people still don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many times I've had to be like, I can't do anything tonight, I've got to record the podcast, and people just, what is a podcast? They don't even know what it is, and that's all you can explain it is that, it's kind of like an internet radio talk show, you know? And it's pretty amazing. And get it, like, it blows our mind too, like when you get downloads from like other countries and things like that.
People from Russia the other week.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was our first Russia. Well, the one time, like it was
send them over to us.
It was really early in our run. We got a random like 2 days where we got 500 downloads in South Korea.
and we don't know why. It was 500 downloads.
Couldn't figure it out.
It was the biggest spike we have ever seen.
You guys were the soundtrack of StarCraft.
When I go through and look at our episodes that have peaked the most downloads, was like an episode that we did about Josh and me and a road trip we took in 2006. It was just our, this crazy road trip we took to go see a friend's band. And for some reason, this is consistently our highest downloaded episode. And it's not like it was, a band that at the time was blowing up or something. It's not like we were the first to break a story or anything. It's just, I've listened to it. It's just a fun episode. And, for some reason, people were like, oh, that's the one. You should listen to that one.
I like listening to you guys' show. It was like there's a very interesting dichotomy between the shows that are like still on the network, which is essentially us, and because like they were saying, like a lot of their stuff is like they're telling fun stories about each other and about things that have happened, and then there's really interesting stories from Florida and things of that nature, and like you guys don't have like a specific gimmick, and like we kind of went the gimmick route in a way because most of the things that Chad and I talk about when we're just shooting the breeze is comic books, movies, video games. So we were like, well, let's just kind of make it into like a newsy kind of show and just talk nerd culture because that's what we're into anyway. We're all about that kind of stuff, and every once in a while, we wind up throwing extra stories in because the friendship bleeds over. You can't really help it when you're together with your best friend, And like I think that's what's great about the NSF Radio is we've got like such an interesting mix of guys who are different, but at the same time, when we get together, you can tell why we're all friends.
And I think it's just like podcasting in general, though. I think it's like one way you can make things where you don't need very much equipment. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like you can buy a microphone set for $30, connecting to your computer. You can get it going for like $50.
Yep. I spent $100, got 2 microphones, 2 headsets, a mixer. That's all we've used.
Yeah, that's interesting that you guys were saying about. You said like it was like in its infancy for like a year.
Yeah.
I remember the day. It was almost 3 years ago at this point that I was over at Zach's house. I don't remember for the life of me what we were doing, but I remember we're in his room just kind of hanging out, and and he starts throwing this idea at me about a podcast. And at that point, I was part of the somewhat ignorant public who had no idea what a podcast was, like Zach was saying, and I really only knew that they existed because I use iTunes. So then he explained it to me and was like, well, you should check this out and check this out because I want to do something like this. So I did that, and then I get back to him a couple days later, and next thing you know, we're coming up with what our name is going to be and what our format's going to be, and he's spending $150 or whatever on our podcast starter kit. I mean,
the thing with Chad and I is if we don't immediately act on an idea, it will be 6 years before we act on it.
Yeah, this is true.
That's why we kicked it around for a year.
We all kind of like wound up together, and at our first meeting, I found out that these guys liked pro wrestling, especially like Japanese pro wrestling, and I was like, yes, I found people. And like ever since then, we always talk wrestling, and now we're on the verge of doing a crossover podcast where we all talk about wrestling together. So that's gonna be awesome.
And I think really the thing that ties us all together as a network is that if any one of us were just in a group of like normies, they'd probably murder us. But we can all get along with
Murder or shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're putting in like 40 hours a week and you go home and you don't have much time to yourself, you have this one day a week you can look forward to where you get together with your friends.
But yeah, it's just like I said before, it's just for me personally, we get when we get these bunch of downloads, that's cool. When we get people like, hey, that show really helped me out, that's cool. But for me, it's just going off that. It's just an excuse to get together and document a friendship that has lasted for so long with me.
It's like a photo album, but it's
that you can listen to.
It definitely has that escape element to it. Like it's like guys' night. It's like I mean. I'm about to be married. I have a 3-year-old son, and like, it's nice to be able to have this like standing appointment with my best friend that I can just get away for a couple hours and shoot the shit. And then, whenever the show gets like a a huge jump, you know, or these random listeners show up in Missouri, and it just it makes you feel like kind of what Josh was saying, that when you're doing this stuff, it's like therapy for yourself, but at the same time, other people are getting something out of it, you know, and that to me, that's the nature of the whole podcasting thing.
For me, like, it's kind of everything that you guys have said swirled around, and then it's also a massive creative outlet. Like, because when we do shows, you know, we come up with different segments or things that will happen, and then I'm like, ooh, we should make this sounder. So, like, you know, we have lots of sounders we throw in between things, like if there's going to be spoilers or what are some of our other sounders? Oh, when we do our shout-outs or bitch fests. So
it's like you can kind of do all this without asking permission. You don't need, like, it's so cheap. You don't need anyone to help fund it. It's not like a movie, because like even a movie, at a certain point you need people to help you. It takes forever to edit. It's just, this is just one of those things that you can literally have 2 people and you can do a consistent show. Consistent quality.
Most of the time, the editing is my favorite part. Well, the show is my favorite part. But you know, like after he goes home and I sit down and I start putting things together, and it's, you know, it really is art. Like, you know, people don't want to say it's art, but it kind of is. You know,
it's like playing with Legos, but with sound.
There you go. Yeah, I like that.
There you go. That's good.
That's a soundbite. Write that down.
What's podcasting?
It's like Legos. Word-worthy comment.
Yeah, like it really is. Like, it's all about like the creative aspects, because, like, you know, I've dabbled in lots of other things. Like, you know, I like to write and I've done music, but this is the thing that I've done the most consistent, and it's rewarding. Just when it's done and you go back and listen to it, you're like, wow, you know, we did that, and it sounds awesome.
And it's so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
can't harp on that.
You know what?
It's so little effort.
The thing is, it's not really, because I have listened to a lot of podcasts that are just dreadful.
That's true.
Like, it's not as easy as we think it is. It's like, this really.
It's easy for us because we share that brave light.
It's tooting our horn.
There's also the need that you're stroking your own ego. I think if you're on a podcast, I think
there's a large level of narcissism.
You see how big this man is? Like 80% of this is ego. Like, no lie.
No, he's not kidding.
I don't know that I go that far though, because like going back to what Ken said, where he's like, doesn't matter if people listen to us. Like when you told me they were gonna come in and film us, I was like, oh no, that means more people, and they might hear like how awful we are. It's just conversations between 3 friends that make each other laugh, and yeah, I don't know, like.
But like, I do think the FAWLCast is an outlier of most things, because to a certain point, it's like you guys make that show because you want people to know what you think. You guys think that your opinion might,
like, somebody might care. Yeah.
You guys do just tell a story, and it's funny, and people know.
Yeah,
so I think you guys are a little more of an outlier.
Yeah, because we immediately were like, oh, more people might hear us. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we were psyched about that.
Our
yeah,
show
no
should
lie.
never matter to anybody but us.
Yeah.
Really
That's how it works. That's how it works best. But what I have noticed, that like even some of those episodes, like that it's like a crazy story, hooker or whatever. Not that we ever got hookers, but you have to go back and listen just to hear.
Not that we ever got hookers, that we ever admitted it.
You know, whatever crazy thing we talk about, like when it goes out and we hear back from people, like that was funny. Not like, you're disgusting, don't ever talk to me. Like, that was a great story. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought for sure they were going to take us off the internet when I put that out.
Because most people that are listening to podcasts probably are us. You know what I mean? Like, the people that know about it, that are in there right now, probably are on the same wavelength as we are. And that's kind of the way it is at the moment.
You look at Opie and Anthony, when Ant got into that fight with that lady on the street, and then he went onto Twitter and he's like, these people are savages, they're from a culture of violence, and everyone's like, oh my god, he's a racist. Sirius kicked him off the network. It doesn't matter to Ant. He went and sat in his basement. Not his basement, just some cushy room.
It's a podcast, we'll say that.
Yeah. And he went from making millions of dollars on a contract to now he can
and he can say whatever he wants. Like, those companies realize they're not needed. The more people are starting to drift away, he went off and he's doing just fine alone. You know, Joe Rogan, he's doing his own thing, perfectly fine, and he's just cranking them out. And
that dude does like 4 a week sometimes.
Yeah, Kevin Smith, he's got a whole network that all his fingers are in.
Mark Maron, he's got his. Does he still do it?
Yeah.
Okay. He had a TV show on his podcast.
Yeah.
Like.
It's just the fact that there isn't anybody. You just can't tell someone to stop. I mean, unless like court injunction, maybe.
Yeah.
Like if you get sued for slander or something.
Yeah, but it's like otherwise you can like anybody. It doesn't even matter if anyone listens to it. It's like if you want to make a show about My Little Pony, you can do it. And you know, chances are there'll be people who listen to it.
Probably are.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you have a passion though, you can do it, and it doesn't take. And you don't even need the microphone. You can do it over Skype. It's not going to sound good, but you know.
Steve Austin uses his phone. He just records his interviews on his phone.
Yeah, it's just one of the things. There's nothing stopping. See, it's just you can't say, "Oh, I can't be creative," because yes, you can, and there's no excuse to do it. Not do it.
There's no excuse to do it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Luckily, we don't need an excuse at NSF Radio.
We do what we want. NSF Radio, we do what we want.
Yep.